Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. A happy Monday morning. I hope you will continue to pray for me by leaving dislikes on my video. Last night, I almost got hit by a car, and there are two things that were scary about what happened last night. First, I almost got hurt or killed, but I think even more importantly, it's scary the way that people treat their activity of driving in general. And I think here in the United States, we have too casual of a view on driving. Let me give you an analogy. I've done a number of dangerous things in my life, in terms of work, in terms of hobbies. For example, I teach at Phoenix College. We have to be mindful about security threats, right? So I can't tell you how many times at school something has locked down because of something that was out of the ordinary, right? When I was going to school in Rochester Institute of Technology, actually this incident is kind of funny, you can Google it. Somebody brought an unusual looking umbrella to school, and I literally had to hide under a couch for about half an hour until we cleared that up, what was going on. It was kind of funny now looking back at it. It was nice. It gave us something to think about. I was getting ready to graduate at the time, and my mind was pretty cluttered. To have an unusual lockdown in the middle of the week was kind of nice, right? I teach at Phoenix College right now. We had an interesting security threat a few weeks ago where somebody had went maniac. I hope he's getting some help with his mental health. And so we gotta be mindful of that, right? Nobody would casually just blow stuff like that off, right? We have bomb threats that are reported all the time, right? Nobody casually laughs that off, right? And then I have a few dangerous hobbies. You guys know that I like to make art out of various metals. Some of these metals are somewhat toxic, right? I have a friend who gives me bullets from a shooting range, and they have all sorts of metals in them. Actually, I gotta find out what metal alloy that is, because depending on the batch, every batch looks a little different because you get bullets from all over the place, and some of them look pretty neat. I gotta show you guys it. So I just hate to bring them out of my to display, because those metals can be quite toxic, and I gotta figure out one thing. I have to figure out is I'm making a Buddha or whatever out of an alloy that may contain lead or some other. I don't know if bullets ever have cadmium in them, but I gotta I gotta ask a friend to test it. I have a friend who has an XRF gun who can find out. So, but at least lead. I gotta find out how to render the surface somewhat non-toxic to touch, right? I'm thinking anodizing or something like that. But whatever the situation is, the point is that you got to be very mindful of your surrounding. One of my biggest fears is that I'm doing one of these things and I get interrupted in some way, right? I often live with roommates, or sometimes depending on the Airbnb that I'm living in, the owner barges in and scares the crap out of me, and causes an accident of some sort, right? So I got to be mindful of that. Oftentimes when I'm doing these things, well, if I'm working with lead, I'm going to have the doors and windows open anyway, so hopefully the idea of somebody startling me will be a little bit less of a problem. I got to be mindful of that. Other times I'm working with other things that have other metals that have a much higher melting point. I tried melting copper and silver at one point, as you guys saw. You got to be very mindful of that, right? And then there's the anodizing of some of the pieces that I make. Some of the solutions can be quite toxic, right? With zinc, you need phosphoric acid to anodize, and I think I haven't tried this yet, but when I do, I'll definitely be very mindful of what I'm doing. Some of them require cyanide to anodize, right? Okay, what else have I done? I love taking pictures of the night sky, and when I used to live in Seattle, Washington. I would drive out to Ellensburg. We have what's called Wild Horses Monument. It's a rest stop and a park. I'll let you guys Google that. And there's a cliff that you can climb up to get, I think, what lake is that? There's a lake, and then you can get the moon and the planets rising and setting over water. And I went there to see a lunar eclipse in May of 2022, and that cliff is pretty dangerous to climb up. But you recognize that it's dangerous, right? Now, let me tell you something. I've never had any serious accidents involving any of this stuff. The toxic chemicals, the rock climbing, when we had to lock down at the schools. Why? Because we all recognize those are pretty dangerous activities to get involved in, right? Well, the same should occur when you open the door and get into the driver's seat of your car. You need to treat it like one of these activities. You really do. It's not just a casual Sunday drive, right? And unfortunately, too many people have a hard time hammering that down, that they're doing something dangerous. You would never dream about handling any of those activities that I mentioned earlier while drunk, while texting, while eating, while daydreaming. See, a lot of people, there's a lot of PSAs on the television or radio. Hey, don't drink and drive, don't drive while high on marijuana. But that misses the entire point. The entire point is that driving is not a casual activity, right? It's not something that, for example, I love to play board games at a board game meetup. I could care less if I win or lose, right? That's a casual activity. Sometimes myself, I make a blunder. Sometimes my opponent makes a blunder, and we can laugh about that, right? You can't treat your driving like that, right? Driving is not like surfing the web or, for example, one funny thing I saw earlier this week was that Taylor Swift sometimes forgets the lyrics to her song, and it's kind of funny the way she blows it off, right? Does it go this way or does it go that way? And the audience like screams at her, right? That's funny, right? Nobody's gonna die from hearing the wrong lyrics. Although somebody did die at a Taylor Swift concert because of the conditions in Brazil, right? So the point is that you can't treat driving like that, right? You can't even treat it like you were singing something, like Taylor Swift singing something on stage, right? It's life or death, right? You got to treat it like you would when you're climbing up that cliff in Ellensburg, right? Or when you're melting some dangerous metal, right? Right now, as I speak, I'm working on trying to extract radioactive material from household dust, from various rocks that I could find here in the Phoenix area. I guarantee I'll probably have a car accident before I have an accident dealing with that stuff, because I know that stuff is dangerous, right? Anyways, thought I would point that out. It's not don't text and drive. It's not even don't eat while driving. It's you got to treat your driving with the respect that it deserves, right? This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.